Hey folks, my name is Suds.
And I'm Nikki. Welcome to Zero Calorie Marketing.
Tune in to listen to us speaking to some of the most innovative, brilliant, open-minded marketers we know.
Each episode features a different marketeer with a unique perspective on marketing, branding, life philosophy, and everything in between.
Lend us your eyes and ears for the next hour or so as we discover more about the person and also the unique path that they took which led them to where they got to.
And the real story behind the why, where, when, and how they do what they do.
Without a further ado, let's get to it. Hey folks, my name is Suds, co-host of Zero Calorie Marketing. Today we're joined by Christina Pashialis, who is the founder of ContentUK, the UK's foremost community for content marketers. She has 6 years of content marketing experience for companies such as Soldo, Hubbub Fundraising, Grizzle, Geckoboard, and she's super keen to support others who are looking to move their careers within content marketing. As an entrepreneur, I take my hat off to my today's guest, simply because she had the courage to back herself as an entrepreneur and leave her role at a time of great uncertainty and actually make things happen within this new community. Not only did she see an opportunity, but she thought, you know what, now's the best time to do it. So I have a lot of respect for our guest today. There is a saying, growth happens at the end of your comfort zone. And these are the kind of things that you may see on, I know, Instagram quotes or these kind of daily platitudes, but our guest lives and breathes this. So I'm super excited to learn, understand, and really get some insider tips from our guest, Christina. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Suds.
It's almost like we'd rehearsed that, isn't it?
Bit of deja vu there.
Deja vu.
It's almost like we did this interview without recording before.
Oh my God. So we did a 15 minutes worth of chat and I stupidly realized I hadn't put the record button. See, this is what happens when I don't have Nikki, the co-host. Nikki, I need you. I need you to come back. Nikki's not in today, but she will be in for the other episodes. We were in such a good flow as well. And
hopefully we can replicate that.
If we can get 1/10 of that magic, then I'll be happy. Christina, tell us, what is ContentUK?
So ContentUK is a community for content marketers that are in the UK, and it comes in the form of a close-knit Slack community, so fellow content marketers can share advice and support other people with their roles, both in-house and freelance. And also there's an education element where we'll have lots of webinars and Q&As and chats about specific content topics. So yes, a community for UK content marketers.
Just a bit of background for the listeners. I actually discovered Christina's company because I was doing a course with a guy called Ollie Meekins, who does Roast My Landing Page, and he was one of your guests, I think, on one of your early webinars or early talks. I was really taken aback because you knew what you were talking about. You knew your audience inside out. Ollie himself is, he knows his shit, and I was really there's two people who knew what they were talking about, and I was really engaged with your talk, and it kind of inspired me to reach out to you, to get you on as a guest. I think that you had ignored my couple of emails, but I don't mind it because I'm glad that you're here. And I have been following your progress through LinkedIn as well as on socials. As anyone who's in content, that I would highly, highly recommend they subscribe to your newsletter. Even though it's not relevant for me, I really find it very engaging because you know what you're talking about, and the people that you have on in a weekly basis or people that you feature or interview, they know their shit. So it's one of the few newsletters I actually read from top to toe. So
thank you.
And I actually look forward to reading it. And I actually, not many times I actually do this, but I think I write to you, say, oh, this is a really good newsletter, good stuff. So yeah, that is me.
Thank you.
I want to get straight to it. You left a super secure role, paying monthly wages, that kind of thing, to set up ContentUK at a time of probably the most uncertain time that we've had in certainly my lifetime and in probably most people's lifetime. What made you want to do that?
Yeah, so I did leave my job at an uncertain time, but I think it's worth noting that when I did make the jump, I'd taken a lot of risk factors into consideration. So I had a pot of savings. I'm living at home with my parents. So I had a runway of about 6 months if ContentUK completely failed, and a backup plan to get contract work if I could see things aren't, picking up. So I wouldn't advise anybody to just quit their job and jump on an idea. And I'd been building ContentUK as a free community for over a year before I tried to monetize it as well. So it's worth noting that. And then I was working on it, trying to monetize it after work on weekends consistently for quite a few months before I then made that leap.
That's amazing in terms of I mean, a lot of people I speak to, consultants and people within my circle, even with that, they would still be very reluctant to pull the trigger. Have you always had that kind of entrepreneurial kind of flair, or how was that something that what was the inspiration for wanting to do something on your own?
Something I've always loved the idea of. Even like my first job was a startup, because I found the world of building a business. So when I joined the first company I worked at, I was the 7th employee, and I was always fascinated by the idea of building something from nothing. And I'd read like all those startup-y sort of books, like the Tim Ferriss 4-Hour Work Week and all those sort of things. So yeah, it was always something in the back of my mind that I wanted to do, but I didn't have an idea for quite a long time or know how to implement it.
In terms of, like, were your family and friends supportive of this, and how did you, what was their first reaction when you said, hey, I'm leaving this to do something that I've been creating by myself? You de-risked it yourself. I guess there was a lot of element of, this is something new that I'm doing. How did you overcome that? And what was the reaction of your friends and family?
Reaction of friends and family, I don't think they were too surprised, because they know that's something I'm just always interested in doing. And a lot of people are like, oh, why are you leaving your job during a pandemic? But I think they know it's something that I'm passionate about, weren't overly surprised, because I'm always talking about the world of startups and entrepreneurship and trying to create a way of making money where I don't have a boss. It's always something I've always wanted to do.
You do have like a background on this, like when I was professionally researching stalking you'd written a post a few years ago on Medium, which was lessons learned from failing to become a freelancer. If you could go back and revise that, what would you change now?
I wouldn't actually change anything, because that was a really good experience to go through that failure, and I learned a lot. But what happened then was, I quit my job to try and become a freelancer, and it took me over 6-7 months to get a client. I was very naive to going up how you go about getting clients. I hadn't, if I could go back to that person trying to do freelancing for the first time, I would have advised myself to keep my job and try and get some clients on the side initially, build up a profile, prioritize getting a portfolio before just leaving and going out there on my own, and to build up a bit of a personal brand, which I didn't have at all then. How
did it feel like when you were like month 3 into, that 6 month, how did you keep yourself going?
It didn't feel good. At that point, I'd lost all my confidence, really. I was still plodding along, but wasn't really believing in what I was doing. Yeah, I think when you've hit a few months of not getting work, your confidence does go down quite a lot.
As any business entrepreneur would vouch, like uncertainty and also the ability to keep yourself going is probably the toughest thing that you'll ever get over. What advice would you give someone who may be going through that journey right now? In terms of, okay, maybe they've been let go, or, maybe they've been, they said, okay, fine, I want to go from a role into being a freelancer. What advice would you give them to keep themselves going?
Firstly, it's not going to be easy, and they should be kind to themselves. It's just in and of itself a really, really tricky thing when you haven't got a role and you're trying to apply for things and you're not getting anywhere. But some like practical stuff, it's like give yourself set hours where you're going to be trying to look for work. So don't, maybe a few hours a day where you're applying, but then just give yourself a break after that point, so you're not just viciously perpetuating that cycle. But then give yourself like a number of things that you're going to apply for a day. Focus on building a portfolio, so prove your work. Show people that you trust. Be okay to show people that you trust your CV and your applications. Perhaps help improve, like ask for help, basically to help improve what you're doing. Ask people that do like you, what not that like you, that you've worked with, like what are your traits? What's to sort of, when you're in a confidence drought, other people can see what your positive attributes are more than you sometimes. I'll get references off of them. Yeah, this was kind of like a brain dump of random ideas there.
No, this is really interesting.
Things are really helpful. Just making sure that you're practical, but like trying to do things for self-care every day as well. Like exercise, setting yourself boundaries.
I want to explore this more maybe later on. In terms of, there's 2 challenges that you faced, I guess. One was going from a role within a company to setting up. Yes, you had some traction and you had a community, but could you tell us a bit more about the first person who signed up to ContentUK, and how did that make you feel? Got that first confirmation email say, yep, the money, someone's actually paid to be a member, Well,
the first one was kind of like, it was like a mate who's also building a business, James McKinven. I was having a call with him because I was struggling to get the first customers. I was like, oh my God, no one's going to sign up. And then he paid while we were on the call. So that was the first
Shout out to James.
Thanks, James. I don't know if it if it was him just being kind, or he wanted to join, but he's still in the community, so he must like it. But then when I got the first actual customer, it was somebody I wasn't expecting that hadn't ever engaged in the Slack community. They were kind of just must have been quietly enjoying the content and the webinars. So to see that come through it was like, it's the best feeling in the world when there's something you've been plugging away at for a long time and you don't know if people are going to pay, especially because a lot of these people had been in the community for free for like a year, and then I really didn't know if they'd want to pay when I transitioned back to pay.
No, I think your community is very valuable, and it's something anyone in content marketing should definitely join, because you are an insider who is talking to her peers, and anyone who's seen any of your videos knows that you know what you're talking about. How do you keep learning from your peers? Has there been, during your journey, something that you hadn't expected to come across, and how do you have that feedback loop to keep yourself learning?
How do I continue learning from my peers? I love learning from them. It's just really fun having a topic I want to learn about and then being able to interview an expert on that topic and just learn about so many different things. Really love doing that, and sort of listening to common challenges that the community are having and then getting somebody in to teach us all about that. I love that. Some of the challenges I face, one of the biggest things I struggle with is, as a paid community, so you have to pay to get the value, it's sort of showcasing to people who aren't in the community yet that it is valuable before they join. So I'm always experimenting with doing free trials. I turn them on and then I turn free trials on and off. I'm currently trying something where it's like a 30 days of content challenge where people can just join for 30 days, and we're going to try and build a content creation habit together. Just finding, but the biggest challenge is just finding ways to show people the value before they're proper members. And that's always a juggling act.
So almost like giving them a taste of what they can expect before they kind of take the plunge.
Yeah, it's a very fine balance, because there's a part of me that always just wants to just have all the webinars for free and everyone can join for free, but then why would you become a member?
From what you've mentioned before, I think you mentioned to me that you have a very low churn rate, but it's just getting them through the door, which is being the biggest challenge. Is that something that you're going to be trying to address for your biggest challenge for 2021? Or what are the other things that you're doing?
I definitely need to ramp up that side of things. Sure. So as I mentioned, there's the challenge that's launching on Monday.
Ooh.
Content.
Tell us more.
Yes, it's 30 days of content. You sign up. The first cohort's going to be a free one, as I was just testing the waters, but you commit every day for 30 days to working on content. But we've got, for habits to set, we know that public accountability really helps with things like that. So there's like a Slack channel where we'll all be sharing every day our progress. There's like a habit tracker where you can sort of tick each day as you're going along whether you did it. And then we've got like a goal setting workshop to help sort of set your goals, midpoint check-in, and then at the end a check-in. So I was just sort of orchestrated this challenge to really help people to actually stick to creating content for 30 days and not just like leaving someone by themselves to do it and then not. So that's something. So something like that. That's something I'm trying to sort of bring people into the community, and then they'll get something valuable. And if they like it whilst they're doing the challenge, they can stick around longer. But then other things that I do want to be trying to sort of help is, I guess, everything's been quite organic. So I guess more systematically looking at lead generation and outreach. That's something I guess I don't like it much, but I think I might have to do stuff like that, I think, to help.
I'd be super keen to learn how you get on with that. Just changing topics slightly. You are quite a big reader, and anyone who follows you on socials knows that you're probably reading 2 or 3 books at the same time. Well, that's the impression I get. What has been some of your favorite reads? It could be fiction and non-fiction in the last year or so. I know that's a big question, but I want to just
I really enjoy the last year or so. The One Thing, forgot who that's by, but it's really about just focusing your mind on just doing like the one most important thing every day that's going to push you towards your goals. I just found that whole framework very useful as somebody who's quite an overthinker and always has a million ideas going on at once. I really enjoyed that book. Oh gosh, what else have I read? My mind's gone blank. I can't think. There's loads of good books, but I can't think of it. In terms of fiction, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Just a really nice, I think it's a good pandemic book. It's a very positive message about being appreciative of the life that you've got now. That's a cute book.
What's been the most influential book that you've ever read?
The most influential was definitely, probably a bit dated now, but The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss for me, because at the time I thought the pathway to getting money and getting a job is like you just get a job, work your way up. the career ladder, and that's it. And it was never excited me. But when I read this book about how you can get money from the value you make, not just your time, you can make money on your own terms. And it was like, wow, this is such an amazing concept. That's the life I want to have. That's amazing. So at the time, it was, to my young brain, like very, very pivotal.
I was hoping that you'd mention that, because I think that was one of the screenshots that you had on Twitter. It was like 4-hour work week, and I think it was White Teeth by Zadie Smith and a couple other books, and you'd put the challenge out to say, what are you currently reading? And I actually had a tweet lined up to respond to you, but I'm going to do that after this talk. In terms of, like, you mentioned you're an overthinker, does that become better over the years, or do you have tactics to kind of overcome that?
So I have tactics to overcome that. Yeah, I go through waves. So if I was left to my own devices, I get overwhelmed. That's my natural state. But things that I've been doing like this recently, that I'm in like a good track at the moment of like getting up, meditating for 15 minutes and having my phone off for like the first few hours of the day, and then trying to jump straight into a focused bit of work for a couple of hours, or then going into social media and all those things. That's been really useful. And then at the end of the day, sort of setting out for tomorrow, what main things I should be doing the next day. It's just sort of having that structure in place really helps.
Let's say you were working for a company. Has the approach that you're taking to your work changed? Or, like now that you're your own boss, how do you think about what you do during the day versus what you're doing when you're working for someone else?
Yeah, it's something I'm learning as I'm going. It's sort of acting like a boss to myself and giving myself structure. Yeah, because when you have got a boss, you sort of know what the goals are. They're telling you what to work on. That's been a bit different, trying to adapting, setting myself goals.
In terms of, like, there is this we're kind of going through massive changes. I don't want to go into that because everyone sort of talks about it. How do you see content changing in the next, not changing, what will content marketers be working on in the next year, 2 years, post-pandemic?
Post-pandemic, well, I think people are now doing more online things, even though the pandemic will finish, but they're already in the rhythm now of learning how to be good video editors, create good video content, podcasting, audio, content marketers being forced to become experts in these sort of things. So I think that trend will continue after the pandemic as well. So yeah, more video, more audio.
And in terms of, your direction, I know that you've got the Slack channel and you've got your online community email, and you're also putting out videos. What's been working for you? What's the best medium that's been working for you so far?
My favorite ones is doing webinars, like live webinars. I really enjoy that. The element of learning from an expert, but then the live side of it, where people that are watching can just directly ask questions to the expert in the moment. And then once that's finished, you can then use that webinar to repurpose it into snippets. And I put it into like a learning hub for members to then watch the recording. And then you make notes from that. So I just like all the good stuff that can come from video, live video.
Do you have someone helping you with creating and, kind of repurposing all this content, or do you tend to get involved? Do you do that all yourself at the moment?
At the moment, it's just me. I'd love to get some support at some stage, but it doesn't make sense in terms of the income I'm making at the moment from it. But that would be cool to get some help at some point.
What would be your goal and ambition for ContentUK? How do you see this what would be your dream in a way for your company?
To be the go-to place that all content marketers go to learn and connect with other people in their craft. So that comes in the form of courses about different content topics, big conferences. Yeah, that's kind of the goal of it, to just be like the UK's biggest community of content marketers, all while being a really friendly vibe throughout all that.
I know that we spoke about this before I had forgotten to press the record button. You have quite a unique way of onboarding your members. Could you tell us a bit more about that? I sign up to ContentUK. What's the first thing that happens?
Yeah, you sign up to ContentUK and I'll invite you into Slack community and the members area. And most importantly, if you want one, I'll have a one-to-one call with you.
So that, they have that kind of one-on-one relationship with you, the founder of the company, the community, so that they feel connected and they feel like they're being listened to.
Yeah, I really want to get to know why are they joining? What do they want to learn about? What are their expertise? What sort of work are they looking for? Just to really understand that person, try and make them feel welcome, and then make sure that they are introduced in the Slack community, encourage them to join. We've got a coffee chats channel where you'll randomly get matched to a person in the community every couple of weeks. So encourage them to join that so they can get to know others as quickly as possible.
Because before this your community was actually an offline community, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us, what that actually entailed?
Yeah, so it started off at June 2019 as a pub meetup. So as a content marketer myself, I didn't really know that many content marketers in the UK or London. There was like a big US community of content marketers, but not as much in the UK. So it started off with me putting a post on like LinkedIn and Twitter asking if any UK or London content marketers wanted to meet up at the pub. So about 7 of us turned up in this pub in Euston for the first one. So it's just really nice. Those days, yeah, in the pub days. Can't wait for those to return. And it was really nice just speaking with other people that had similar roles and challenges. So let's do another one next month. And then it became this monthly pub meetup. And then we set up a Slack community so that we could stay in touch after the pub meetups. It was really fun.
I mean, I guess it kind of happened organically, where I guess the first batch of people were people that you knew personally, and then maybe the second time they would bring in people they knew. Because I was looking through the Twitter channel that you've got, and you've got quite a good community of people professionals who are looking to connect with others, and that's the kind of impression I get. How did you kind of facilitate that? I know that you're big on community, but what tip would you give to someone who's trying to do something similar?
So someone's trying to do something similar, just focus on getting like 4 people at your first meetup. Like that's all you need. How you can do that is there would already be communities of some extent where those people are hanging out. So just post in all of those. So I did like a tweet, a LinkedIn, posted in like 5 Slack groups. Might have put it on Eventbrite as well. Yeah, put it on Eventbrite as well. So just think of all the places that you can put, but set yourself a target of 4 people turning up. One-to-one message, a whole load of people that you can think of as well. And if you do all of those things, you should get those 4 people that rock up.
I mean, I can't wait for the days that we could go into a meetup and, meet some like really like-minded people, but also meet like weird people as well. There's always 1 or 2 really people who just, I'd go to like an investor meeting, or I'd go to like a content video production kind of content meeting. And, you'd have some like who's, okay, I directed this thing for John Lewis, and I did this, and then and there would be someone who's like, I just saw it, I was free, and I thought I'd come along, and they're like, I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, I'm like a tutor. I was like, okay. I miss that. Like I would think, oh my god, there's always one weird person, but these days, how I wish I'd meet some weird people. Sometimes I would be like, yeah, whatever. Because I think there's a thing where if you don't know who the weird person is within the meeting, then you are it, Okay, so going back to this, I want to talk to you about something serious. Imposter syndrome. It's almost like every single person I meet, including founders of very established businesses. There's a friend of mine who's a marketing manager, and she has lots of self-doubt about what she does. And also I have a friend who's a very successful business person, but he has lots of self-doubt. People outside don't see that, but he, when you talk to him on a personal level, you see that he kind of has these things. And I know that you mentioned that it's something that you go through and something that you have an ongoing challenge with. How have you overcome it, or not overcome it, but how do you deal with it?
Yeah, that's imposter syndrome. Something, as you say, a lot of people battle with, and I'm always battling with like ContentUK, because I think I'm getting invited onto podcasts and things, and lots of people reaching out to me, but I'm sort of very early on in my journey. Company's not making that much money. It doesn't feel like, I don't feel like a business person, for example. So that's always going through my head at the moment. But earlier on, I felt like an imposter syndrome as a content marketer, and felt really scared about doing things like public speaking. That really, really scared me, because I didn't feel like I was an expert enough. So like last year, I've lost track now which year we're on, but year before 2019,
yeah.
I really wanted to sort of like really face that sort of fear of public speaking and feeling like an imposter. So I sort of forced myself to do a talk. Well, it was for a ContentUK. I sort of organised an event and forced myself to do a talk, and signed up for improv classes.
Ooh, interesting.
And a confidence workshop by Kirsty Hulse.
I know Kirsty.
Yeah, she's cool. And then she later did a webinar for ContentUK about imposter syndrome. But I sort of went to one of her events, her workshops, then did improv. So I did all these things to like actually tackle this feeling of imposter syndrome head on, and then did a talk after a lot of that stuff. So my thinking on imposter syndrome is kind of feel cliche, but feel the fear and do it anyway.
Anyway, yeah, it's something everyone goes through. And to be honest with you, my biggest challenge at the moment is putting stuff on LinkedIn that I'm qualified to talk about, but it just feels like, oh, maybe someone's going to judge me. And I had a chat with these couple of guys who are LinkedIn kind of experts or LinkedIn whisperers, I guess. And they just said, look, just do it. That's encouraged me to start putting stuff out there. And one thing I'm doing with my colleague is we've set a goal. No matter what, I come up with some content for LinkedIn every week. And I've set myself a calendar time to say, okay, I'm going to update something. Whatever's in my mind, I'll put out there. Surprising to say, it's been pretty good so far, actually, in terms of how well it's been received. And it's stuff that it comes straight from the heart in terms of this is what I really believe, rather than writing in the genre of LinkedIn where I'm crushing it. It's more like, here's what I've seen and here's what I've learned from my journey so far. I'm challenging myself to do more of that for this year, which is 2021.
I love that. I like the authenticity of how you're approaching that. You're doing what's human to you.
Yeah,
people probably resonate more with that.
Thing is, like, you and I probably have this thing where someone comes to you and says, okay, what kind of content should I create? You can probably have a list of 100, say these are the things that you can talk about. Where sometimes when it comes to creating content for myself or my kind of personal brand, it's like, oh, I have an emotional attachment to it, which kind of makes me reluctant to put it out there. Whereas I know that if I was consulting myself, then I would say, this is what you should talk about because this is what people will find interesting. Again, it's like an ongoing thing where I'm trying to get over that for myself. Another serious topic I want to go. Well, actually, secondly, tell us a bit more about the improv workshop that you did.
It was it was 3 courses. So that's by a company called Hoopla. Yeah, the first course is completely for anyone that's not done any improv, any acting whatsoever. And it's 8 weeks, 2 hours every week. You're just with like a same group of strangers, about 10 of you, and you'll be like given a word and you have to act as a certain character and just say whatever comes to your mind. It's really hard to explain it, but you're basically forced into doing really weird things on the spot without getting a chance to think. So it literally it switches off overthinking, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you think your Cypriot background or that kind of Mediterranean influenced your improv? Could you get angry at a drop of a hat and everyone would be like, oh my God, that's amazing acting, and you're like, no, this is just me. I've been to Greece. I know what people are like.
They do get angry quite easy. It's Cyprus,
yeah.
Yeah, they are very naturally very wear their heart on their sleeves. I don't think I have that trait too much.
Those are the ones you got to watch out for more, I've been, a friend of mine actually is an improv guy. His day job, he's like a serious finance person, but I think improv lets him actually be himself, or actually explore a side of his personality that he doesn't really get to express within his day-to-day job. Going back from something improv to another serious topic, burnout. I feel like I can talk to you about this because we're kind of in the same age range and we probably have the same kind of issues that we've faced through our careers. Could you tell us about, like burnout, and if you've experienced it or what your experience of it has been from your side?
Had a lot of the burnout symptoms or getting close to lots of exhaustion when I was trying to build ContentUK whilst doing my full-time job for about 5 months, because I had a high pressure job that was very intense in and of itself, and then I was getting up really early to work on ContentUK. After work I'd work on it sometimes till like the early hours of the morning and then get up to work again weekends. And when you're just going into that cycle too many days in a row, it can really begin to affect your mental state, and just you can very easily stop giving yourself self-care. So something I definitely experienced as I was transitioning content, trying to be much more mindful of that now that I'm not working full-time.
Has that improved since you've stepped away from doing 2 roles at the same time and focusing more just on your current company?
Yeah, like massively. I still get stressed and can get exhausted, and some of those things can come into play, but I don't have that full-time job. So if I'm like, I need to take today off, I can do that. Whereas before that was a lot harder when I was committing to a company. You
mentioned you have like a morning routine where you get up and do meditation, have your phone switched off. Do you tend to work like set hours, or do you tend to sometimes just go with the flow? What does your typical day look like as someone who's growing a company?
Typical day at the moment, because I'm in a good rhythm, it's I'm not setting an alarm clock, so I just get up naturally, walk my dog, meditate, and then I'll try and, as I said, my phone is off at this point. And then I try and jump into like a big important task for a couple of hours before then turning on the noise of emails, social media, etc., etc. But if I start late, I will maybe finish a bit later. So I'm quite flexible on like,
like let's say this is 3 years in the future. How do you see yourself and your company at that time?
in 3 years' time. Just we're a lot bigger. We offer training to companies that have content marketers. That's the first thing they think of is ContentUK. So we can train up content marketers. We've just got a very massive community, conferences, bigger meetups, and just a lot of happy content people in the community and more in-person stuff.
Good. In terms of, like we get all sorts of listeners, or we're talking to CMOs and lots of companies, as well as B2B as well as B2C companies. What are you looking for at the moment that would really help you, just to sort of put out there into the universe? If someone's listening and they could help you with something, what would that be?
That's a good question. Let the content marketers they know about ContentUK.
I was just going to ask you, how can people get hold of you?
So they can get hold of me. I'm on Twitter at Christina_P and find out more about ContentUK over at ContentUK.co.
To be honest, from an outsider's perspective, I'm really happy that I discovered your community, and also you've grown it from strength to strength. Your newsletters are one of the few newsletters I genuinely look forward to, and I actually read everything from the top to the bottom, because like we work with content managers or content folks on a day-to-day basis, so it kind of helps me keep a tab of what you do. So I'm really happy about that. Also, as an entrepreneur, I'm actually very curious to see how you will grow your community as well as ContentUK as a business. So that's something I'll be keeping an eye on. And of course, if there's anything I can help you with, I'll try and put you in touch with some people I know, or, just keep in contact with you. I think we'd love to catch up with you in the future just to see what you've done, follow your journey from startup to, where you will be going in the future. People can get hold of, what's the website?
ContentUK.co.
It's basically a place for anyone in content who's looking to grow, build a relationship with, as well as learn from peers. From my side, thank you very much for joining us, Christina.
Thank you so much, Suds. It's been really good being on here. Thank you for the kind words about the community and the newsletter. It's really nice of you.
No, to be honest with you, it's very genuine the way you've approached it, and I think it's very authentic and something that's very much lacking in the world of tech and SaaS and anyone within content. It's kind of very impersonal, whereas your community is very you feel like it's very human, and you feel like you're part of a community. Even when you put stuff out there on Twitter, it feels like you're speaking to someone rather than trying to just get everyone in. So that's what I would say. It's refreshing to see that from my perspective. Thank you very much, and we will hopefully see you soon.
Thanks, Suds.
Hope you enjoyed this episode, and don't forget to listen to other episodes of Zero Calorie Marketing podcast.
If you have a minute, do leave us a review on whichever platform you happen to be enjoying this episode.
We'd love to hear from our listeners, so drop us a message with guest suggestions, thoughts on the episodes, and even compliments at zcm@interestingcontent.co.uk.